So I used to get to the end of my day and I'd feel really frustrated that I hadn't felt like I'd achieved everything I wanted to achieve in that day. And this led to a lot of frustration for me because I was really busy during the day, but I didn't ever feel like I'd really achieved the things that I needed to get done that made me feel like I'd had a fantastic day. And I struggled with this for a long time. I've done to-do lists, I've done prioritization graphs and charts and grids and all sorts of different things, and none of them really work for me. And so I came up with my own technique, and I'd like to share that with you so that it might help you as well and might unlock your full potential, which is what I hope to do. It's really simple, but it does take a little bit of time at the beginning of each day. So what I do is set aside 30 minutes in my diary every day to create what I call the dream day. And it's blocked out in my diary at the beginning of every day to do this activity. I'm going to draw it on the board for you. So take a piece of A4 paper. And actually, I found that doing this on a piece of paper is a really important part of the process. So it's a really simple thing to do. Line across the top, title it Dream Day, and put the day of the week, Tuesday, whatever it is, and the date. Now, I actually keep these in a folder because I find it really useful just to go back through and see everything that I've achieved. So you can do the same. I think that's an important part of it. Then what you want to do is divide it down the middle in half, and then put a line across the top, and then another line down the side there, and one there. So half it and half it again, and then do a title bar. What you're going to do in this part here is you're going to write your goals down. Now, the important thing about that is draw a line about here as well, across the bottom. The important thing about having your goals here, and I'm going to do another video on goal setting, but by writing your goals in here every day on your dream day, it really reinforces them in your mind. I think we've all been in the situation where we've, at the beginning of the year, say, as a New Year's resolution, you do a sort of goal setting activity, you write them in your pad, everybody tells you to write your goals down. But I always found that they got put to one side, they got forgotten about, and you never really looked at them until maybe the next year when you come to do them. So by having this section of your goals, really helps reinforce these on a daily basis. And in the goal setting training that I'm going to do in a separate video, I recommend 3 goals, because if you have any more than 3, then you start to become overwhelmed. But you may have up to 5 kind of goals, and these would be a mixture of personal goals. So they may be some sort of fitness or nutrition goal. They may be some sort of activity like running a marathon or achieving some sort of Ironman, but these also could be personal business goals as well. So they might be achieving a certain revenue or selling your business or whatever your goals are. So put your goals in there, and of course those should be SMART goals, and we'll cover that in the goals training as well. Now, so what are these other sections for? So you're writing out your goals again, and you do this every day, okay? So it really reinforces that those are your goals. Then what you do down in this section here, these 3 sections, is that you create your backlog of tasks which are driven by your goals, okay? And I'll do a separate session on how you come up with that, but you probably got somewhere already a whole bunch of to-do list, so this might be on a notepad or, in your phone or something. Everyone, generally speaking, keeps a to-do list of different things that tasks that you need to do. Now, these are, again, a mixture of business, personal, or could be side hustle. So that's why I tend to use these 3 columns. So one would be for personal to-dos, things like household things like renewing the car insurance, or you know, needing to do your tax return or whatever, you know, kind of personal things, household chores or things you need to do. This one could be for work related stuff. And then this column I use for sort of, you know, outside of work, business, a side hustle maybe you've got going on. So put those in, write what the task is next to it. No particular order, just get them captured here. Then what you do in these columns is you have 3 columns: must, should, and could. The next bit you do is you transfer 3 and only 3 things into each of these columns, and you pick from these. Now that can be quite difficult to do, because how do you assess which ones are must? Well, I find these headings really useful, because if you try and use a priority 1, 2, 3 or ABC, then you kind of get a bit muddled up in your head. But the point of using these words is psychology of, at the end of the day, I must have done this task. Now, must makes it very clear that there is a deadline of the end of the day to complete that task. So, you know, one deadline may be that you need to complete your tax return by the end of the day, otherwise you're going to get a fine for submitting it late. If you don't renew your car tax, then you may get a fine. So absolutely must do by the end of the day, and pick 3 things and 3 things only. Really important that you only pick 3 things. And the reason why you do that is because I think we all set our expectations way too high on what we can achieve during the day. So by picking only 3 things, and I like to make these like a kind of tick box or a radio button that you can kind of color in to get satisfaction from doing it. So write what those 3 things. So effectively you're moving those up into there, those 3 things. And then you do the same for the shoulds. Okay. So should do, these are 3 things that you really should do by the end of the day, but you're not gonna, the world's not gonna fall apart if you don't do them, but you really should do them by the end of the day. 3 things only again, we don't want to overestimate what we can achieve. Of course, if you get to the end of the day and you've done all of these, then you can bring something else in to complete that task. And then you also do the same for the coulds. So what are those tasks that you want to do? Now, as you're doing this process, what is really important and will give you success on next level is that you double check that these things that you're doing, especially the musts and the shoulds, are contributing in some way, shape or form to the goals that you're trying to achieve over here. If they're not contributing to those goals, then you've got to ask yourself, why are you doing them? Are they a waste of time? Or if you're doing things that are not aligned with your goals, maybe you need to adjust your goals, because maybe your goals aren't reflecting what you're actually trying to work towards. So cross-check these 2 things to make sure you're always aligned. Doing this on a daily basis keeps you absolutely focused on tasks that contribute to your goals, whether they be business, whether they be personal, whether they be a kind of side hustle that you've got going on. That's the key essence of the dream day. I know it seems like a lot of work, but you just find if you take half an hour, fresh piece of paper, don't try and use yesterday's, okay? This is, a tip from me, because I tried to do it and it just didn't have the same effect. Take a clean piece of paper and write this out every day. It has a really big psychological effect, restating your goals, reassessing your to-do list. I actually find that some of these things kind of go away after a while. They actually aren't tasks that you need to do. It's really strange. And new things, of course, come in. And it really makes you think about what you've got going on in your life and what the important things are. So that's the main technique. This little box here, you might be thinking, what is that for? And I use it for something that I found I needed to do, and I called it the KO. okay? And it stands for keep an eye on. And these were things that they weren't tasks as such that needed to be done, and they weren't goals. They were just things that I needed to kind of have in my head and just remind me that I needed to keep an eye on them. So, you know, you might have 1, 2, 3 of those. It's somewhere, it's like a little slush bucket really of things that you don't want to forget about that, you know, you just need to maybe ask, keep checking in with somebody or one of your team members on how they're getting on with a particular task, or that you need to be thinking about a particular strategy in your business, or you know, getting in contact with somebody. So it's not really a task, it's just something you need to think on. I call it the KO, keep an eye on. So that is the Dream Day framework. Dream Day framework. And I hope you will find that useful. I would love to know how you get on if you use that. It does take a bit of consistency, it does take a bit of work, but this will take you to next levels of productivity and also real satisfaction at the end of the day. I now get to the end of the day and these things have been ticked off. Obviously, you should try and do the musts before you do the shoulds and before you do the coulds. Okay, so that's kind of how you work your way across. So work your way across, and at the end of the day, you know, if all of these 9 things are ticked, then you should have had a fantastic day, because that's what you set out to achieve, and that's what you achieved. You may have an even better day by, you know, having done all of that, you bring in something else and you actually achieve that as well, in which case you've had an awesome, incredible dream day. But this will hopefully change the way that you think about planning your day, and you become much more methodical about your approach to how you think about your day and your success from that day. Hope that's been useful. I'm going to do a lot more of these videos, so I hope you enjoy them, and I will see you on the next one.